Rock Solid Fitness, and I've got a hammer and I've got a Swiffer. And today we're talking about exercises that you should stop doing or back off from doing if your goal is to grow muscle. So, the hammer. This is what you use to grow that body. Just think of a hammer and chisel, and you are knocking on that body, creating muscle. Then the Swiffer is for polishing up the muscle once you've developed it and grown it, and you're polishing it up, bringing out some shape, bringing out some detail. But you can't bring out shape and detail until you create the mass. So that is what the hammer represents, your mass building exercises. These are normally going to be compound movements. That means movements that have several joints working. Whereas usually your polishing exercises that aren't going to build a lot of mass, they're going to create detail and shape. But first you got to have the mass before you have something to shape and put detail on. So where a lot of people are messing up is their exercise routines are filled with shaping exercises when what they need is muscle first before there's anything to shape. It's kind of like you got to build the wall before you can hang the drapes, okay? So let's look at the difference in these two types of exercises, things that grow muscle and things that maybe you need to back off on. All right, guys, when you want to grow leg muscle, there's several different kinds of leg exercises, but which one are shaping isolation movements and which one are mass building compound movements? Well, this is the leg extension, okay? So the leg extension, raising it up, lowering it down. This is not a mass builder. This is a shaping movement. This is isolating the quadriceps. So if your leg day is full of leg extensions or leg curls, but not so much your mass builders, which would be the squat, you're not going to grow leg muscle. You're working on isolation, detail, and shape, but you got to have the mass. That's where the squats come in. Mass and leg press. Talking mass for the leg and not worrying about detail and shape. We got to put some mass on them legs. Nothing beats the squat. Now you notice this is a multi-joint movement because as I go down and come up, there's several joints working. The knee is moving. The hips are moving, okay? Multi-joints. That means compound movements build mass. But you gotta have the right form, you gotta have the right reps and the right weight. Yeah, baby. So more squats, less leg extensions may be the key. One of the most popular exercises on chest day is the cable crossover. You see guys doing the cable crossover, rep after rep, set after set. Now this is definitely an isolation movement. It is not gonna put big mass on your chest. It's gonna shape and polish the chest, bring out some detail, but that's no good until you've created a huge chest from your presses and some dips. So a lot of times we're wasting way too much time doing cable crossovers from the bottom up and from the top down and from the side in and out. And we're using way too much time on that. We're not growing chest muscle. Chest is getting full of blood. So we feel like we're growing, but we're not. What actually builds the chest muscle? Guys, the chest muscles are grown, through your presses. Presses, that's the key to mass, especially the incline chest press. So stick to your presses and your dips and just put a little bit of cable crossovers into your program, okay? That's how you grow a chest. As one of the most recently becoming popular exercises for triceps is grabbing that cable, bending over, straightening that arm, straighten that arm. We see people do a lot of these. Is this a mass builder? No, this is an isolation movement to carve out detail. But again, we have people doing a lot of these when what their goal is to grow mass. Well, this isn't gonna do it. So what will? When it comes to wanting to put mass on your triceps, there's not too much better than your close grip chest press. keeping those elbows tucked in tight, and then pushing out with the outside edge of the palms of your hand. That is your tricep grower. And another great one is your skull crushers. Those are your mass builders, whereas most of your cable work is not going to build mass as much as an isolation movement to carve out some detail, polish the muscle. But remember, for mass, we need that hammer, the hammer exercises, not the Swiffer polishing exercises. That comes later after you've built a lot of mass. So guys, what about biceps? Well, let's look at the preacher curl. A preacher curl, if you are loading a ton of weight on this thing, where you're pulling up, if you're getting in the rep range of 6, 8, you're wasting your time. This is not a mass building exercise. This is a shaping exercise to shape the peak of your bicep. But first you gotta have a bicep. So this would not be the move to create mass. Well, what would? Your leg curl machine is great for your hamstrings to shape them. But what do we want to use to build mass on the hamstrings, to put a lot of meat on the hamstring? It's not going to be the leg curl. That's going to shape it, but we gotta build that wall first. So how do we put meat on the hamstrings? That's going to be your straight-legged deadlift. Dumbbells or barbell stays close to your body. You drop your rear end away from the weight, but the weight stays very close to your shins. Then you pull yourself back up. You sink back into your heels, pull yourself back up. That is the mass builder for hamstring. Guys, I hope this information helped you today. If your goal is to build mass, which is what most of us are after, you got to stick to those hammer and chisel exercises, mass builders, and less on your shaping isolation exercises. Though there's a place for them, got to get the mass first before we have anything to polish. Lane Jones, Rock Solid Fitness.